Hello everyone, it's Saturday, and that means it's time for me to talk about an episode of an animated superhero television show. Today I will be talking about Batman the Animated Series, specifically the episode on the first box set called Forgotten. This episode, in a nutshell, is Cool Hand Luke in about 20 minutes. If you've never seen Cool Hand Luke, it's about a guy who, after committing some relatively minor crime that doesn't exactly warrant death or a prison term, he is put on a chain gang, and the movie more or less follows his fall into insanity. I am, of course, doing the movie a disservice, but since I've only seen the movie the one time, and I am not here to review that movie, I won't delve any further. This episode starts with Bruce Wayne donating some food to a homeless shelter, and he finds out from the guy who runs the place that several vagrants and one guy who volunteers there have gone missing. So Bruce dons his disguise of a lowly thug to go investigating. As of this episode, we have only seen Batman as Batman and Bruce Wayne, so showing that he is pretty good at disguising himself here is a great callback to such disguises as Matches Malone from the comics. While out in his guise, he is kidnapped and taken to what looks like Nevada, and he is put on a chain gang. This gang is illegal, however, as none of these men are here by choice, they have not committed a crime, and they are not being paid for their trouble either. This whole enterprise is run by a fat, disgusting blob who I don't even think is named. Everything with this guy is, I guess, supposed to be funny, because he's mad that the workers are taking a break to eat, while he himself is never seen without food in his hands. And then he calls them lazy. Aha! Get it? 'Cause he's lazy? Anyway, somehow, when Bruce was knocked unconscious and taken to this camp, he lost his memory. I think we all know amnesia doesn't quite work like this, and what makes the use of this little trope in this episode all the more maddening is that I am 99% sure that the people behind this series know that that is not how amnesia works. Furthermore, what's really frustrating is that I can see no reason why the amnesia plot is even used. This episode could have just as easily happened without Bruce losing his memory here. Listen to this. Bruce is knocked out. He wakes up in the camp, but he doesn't have his Batman gear on because he wasn't wearing it when he was kidnapped. And he's imprisoned, and there are lots of guards with lots of guns everywhere, so he can't risk an escape. Yet. There. Done. This episode just reeks of dumb when you go for the very cliched memory loss that goes away after like a day for the characters and 10 minutes for the audience. So despite the plot of this episode not really being very original at all, and some of the elements of the episode being exceedingly stupid, there's actually a few things that I really do like about this episode. I like that the whole thing is about hope. Earlier this week, I reviewed the third episode of the television series Firefly, and I mentioned that the theme of civilization was hammered home a little harder than it needed to be. Likewise, I feel like the theme of hope here is maybe hitting us in the face more than necessary, and yet I do like the theme of hope being explored for an episode of this series. Many people see Batman as being dark and gritty and a very grim story overall, and sure, parts of it are grim. Boy loses his parents to a violent murder. In some versions of the story, he has no friends, and even in adulthood, he's losing people very close to him. But there's still an element of hope. Batman has devoted his life to making his city and the rest of the world a better place. And if you look at the timeline of Batman's life before DC Comics condensed it all into the span of a 5-year period, you see that Batman's situation certainly looks very hopeless. His villains keep escaping, Robins keep dying or resigning, his back is broken, his city is destroyed, but he keeps soldiering on. That can only come from someone with an extraordinary drive and a sense of hope that you won't find anywhere else. Sure, when Batman is talking to Superman, he might act like a cynic, and maybe he is a little bit of one, but I submit to you that those conversations are when Bruce is playing the devil's advocate, and that he is really as optimistic and hopeful as Clark, maybe even more so. Getting back to the episode, when the guy who works at the homeless shelter asks Bruce if he has his memory back, Bruce says he doesn't think he ever will, to which the man says that Bruce cannot lose hope. And then later, after Bruce's memory is back, he is the one telling this other guy not to lose hope. And yes, I do believe the theme of hope could have still permeated this episode without the dumb amnesia stuff. This is what Batman is about, folks. The hope that one day Batman will no longer be needed. The hope that despite how grim and desperate things look now, things will turn up soon. If they weren't going to, then I don't think Batman would do what he does. So I really like that this episode explores that a little bit. Maybe not in the depths that I did here, and maybe what I talked about here wasn't even their intention, but I still think that they've laid the groundwork for discussion of hope in the world of Batman, and I think it is a discussion worth having. There's not a whole lot more to talk about with this episode. I know I usually talk for a little bit longer about a given episode, but this episode is fairly light on plot, and I've already said my piece about themes for this episode. I do think the bits with Alfred trying to find Bruce are both well done, and in one place in particular, extremely funny. I probably shouldn't have laughed as much as I did when Bruce is talking to the Batplane, but I did. And I felt that Alfred actually acted like a real detective and didn't just let the Batcomputer do all of the work, which is something that I feel like this version of Batman would have done, as I've seen in some of the previous episodes. And I really like the kind of western cowboy type soundtrack that we got in this episode. It definitely felt very fitting to the setting that we had here. So that's about all I have to say. I hope you found this review helpful, and if you did, I hope you will consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. I will return with another review of an episode of Batman the Animated Series in 2 weeks, and until then, I will be coming on to YouTube as often as I can to bring you guys more enjoyable videos. Until then, take care. I'll see you later.